07 Star Citizens. It has been a little while since I've had a video, but finally today, CIG released 3.24 to Evocati. We finally have a patch in Evocati. We finally get to test all of the new cargo updates, and I was there. I got to do it today. So I wanted to make a video really quickly after I had a nap after the test itself, to just talk about what the deal is, what is going on with the cargo update, how much fun it is, how much unfun it is, all that sort of stuff. Now, few things as a caveat, as a reminder, before we get into it. This is an Evocati build, meaning I can't show you anything. I'm going to have little bits of some ISC and some images that they've shown us on the screen for you to sort of follow along, but a lot of this is just going to be all of my initial thoughts about the patch so far. Also keep in mind a couple of other things. It's incredibly buggy. It's the first Evo patch, as to be expected. I crashed a lot, probably once every 30 to 45 minutes, which meant I didn't get a lot of time. And the last caveat is also time related. It was only up for about 4 hours. So there really wasn't enough time to get into like the real deep stuff, but I feel like I got a pretty good understanding of a lot of it. So let's jump into it. So the very first thing you're going to notice when you get into 3.24 is the new personal cargo. They've completely removed global inventory. So you now have to access all of your items from these sort of cargo drawers that you would have seen in live already. They're there, but they don't work yet. But you essentially access them to grab your cargo. You get brought up a screen. One is your inventory. The other one is essentially a screen of what you want to put into the drawer. You get 8 SCU worth that you can put into the drawer, which in my experience was plenty enough for you to grab whatever you need: guns, weapons, ammo, meds, all that sort of stuff. It was pretty large, pretty easy to get. It's obviously a lot slower than what we do right now with global inventory, where you just press open I, armor, double click, that sort of thing. And I do think that may be an issue. The speed of preparing yourself for, you know, whatever kinds of missions you want to do has gone down a lot. It takes a lot longer. It was a bit concerning. Also, no search function on the personal cargo or the freight cargo, which we'll get to in a sec, but that was a huge issue. Now, they did end up bringing, you know, search functions to other aspects of the game when we got introduced other features, so I'm really hoping this comes up sooner rather than later. Otherwise, especially if you're an old head, you're just going to have piles and piles of stuff to have to go through. The amount of personal storage terminals in the cities were huge, so it was actually really hard to not find a space where you can get your personal cargo really quickly, which is good. That means they did a really good job in that respect, at least. We used to be able to access it from everywhere. You still kind of can. It's just, you know, a couple of extra steps. The personal cargo was pretty cool. You'll also find the personal cargo stuff on stations and all of the, I believe all of the base locations as well, as in all of the settlements and that sort of stuff that previously had cargo. The only issue was every time I tried to go to one of these settlements, which I would do, you know, Daymar 141 and such, they weren't there just at all, which could just be some Evocati bug things. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Next up, obviously, one of the biggest things is the new hangars. Running to the spaceport, you can just directly go to the elevator, and it should come up in your little elevator screen, you know, Croncy's large hangar and doors. Like you don't really get access to much else unless you're in a place like Orison that has like security ports, that sort of thing. If someone joins on your elevator, it'll be pretty easy for them to follow you. That's worth noting. But for the most part, that's what pops up. So you don't even need to go to the vehicle manager in the spaceport itself. You go to your hangar, you press the button, takes you down just as it would to any regular hangar. When you first walk in, and keep in mind, this is all going to be within the context of a large hangar. I did see a small hangar once, but I didn't see any other sized hangars, so I didn't see the reclaimer sized hangar. But when you get in, you'll see this massive space. They've obviously sort of made a lot of the hangars larger. The large hangar that I had could easily fit something like a reclaimer, but they didn't do that. And so it's like the largest thing I think I had was the Carrack, or the Hercules C2 that has that massive wingspan. The retrieval of your ship. This is the big thing. This is kind of the coolest thing, but also something that I'm probably most concerned with. When you retrieve a ship, so you have at the front of the hangars a ASOP terminal, kind of like you would have up in the main part of the spaceport, and then you also have a cargo terminal. Not to mention some stuff on the side with the freight elevators, which we'll get to soon. When you go to spawn your ship, the doors of the hangar, the floor doors, the trap door of the hangar will start to open and it will start to fall down. It'll then close, reopen, and when it reopens, your ship will be there, and then it sort of rises up with the ship. In addition, there's like a bunch of alarms going off. There's a yellow warning sign that goes around the whole area, as you can fall in pretty easily. Luckily, I did not. And then your ship rises up. The second it gets to the top as well, it's like all of the warning lights turn off, and there's like the big fog lights sort of turn on one by one. It's incredibly cinematic. And I think for first-time players playing Star Citizen, when they see this, is going to be massive. It is going to be huge. It's going to be super cool. It's this awesome cinematic moment. However, I have a huge concern with it in that it takes ages. It takes a really, really long time. Now, a lot of times that's not going to matter, as you know, you're going to be able to do that while you then go mess with your personal cargo box, right? It's like, all right, cool. I've seen this happen a couple of times. It's fun. While it's loading and unloading the ship, I'll, you know, get my armor sorted, get my weapons sorted, blah, 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 blah. But let's say you're doing something like Xenothreat, where you don't really care necessarily about what you're wearing. You just want to get into a ship. It's going to add a solid, like, 2 minutes, I think. 1 minute to 2 minutes. I should have timed it, which I'll have to do in the next Evocati test, to your setup. And that's a huge issue because all of us already know just how long it can take to set up in Star Citizen, and now it's way longer. So hopefully something can be done about that. I would love if there was like maybe a request, like maybe if you went to the terminals upstairs, which I didn't try this, so there may be a case, but if you went to the terminals in the spaceport, the ship would just be there when you summon it, and that may very well be the case. So keep that in mind as well. Once again, 4 hours to test, didn't have a lot of time to do most things. But regardless, cinematically incredibly cool. The next thing, obviously, to check out is the freight elevators. So we now have a way of firstly organizing all of our cargo, storing them at a location rather than just, you know, our bits of inventory, actual cargo we can store there now, and retrieving them and storing them. The freight elevators, once again, they seem to be a different size depending on what hangar you've got. On the large hangars, and once again, this may not be the case with the other ones, but on the large hangars, there was actually 2 freight elevators sort of opposite each other in the corners. The freight elevator starts open and starts sort of up, right? Starts deployed. You can go to a terminal, which looks very similar to the personal cargo terminal, and they actually gave us a little sort of sneak peek, I think in a monthly report. I'll get the image up here of what it looks like. And essentially on the left side, you have the pad, and this is going to be whatever items you want to bring out onto the pad. And on the right side, all of your cargo is there, all of your items that you have stored at that location. In order to move all that stuff, you have to retract the freight elevator itself, which you just press with an arrow button, similar to how the ship hangar comes up. There'll be a bunch of sirens going on. It closes up, it goes down, and then you can move your stuff onto it. And then when it comes out, it does the same thing, essentially. Noticeably much faster than the ship hangar does. So this one I feel like is going to be less of an issue. At the moment in Evocati, if you just put like random things on there, they essentially all get dropped in the one spot. So anything that's like not cargo seems to just sort of pile on. That's going to be a bug, I imagine. So something that hopefully they'll get to fix. But if you bring cargo or containers, it will lay it out there normally, properly, like it's a cargo grid, because it is a cargo grid. So that makes it a lot easier for you to, you know, load and offload cargo. The freight elevator was probably by far the best thing about the patch. It worked kind of well, and so I like that a lot. I think that one is just positive. Speaking of cargo, let's talk a little bit about that, because there was a lot of not a lot of issues, but like a lot of things have changed with cargo because of all of this. So I bought a bunch of different sized cargo SCUs, because the way that you buy cargo now is you actually purchase it by the SCU amount. So you've got the SCU boxes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and then you buy an amount of those, right? So rather than just saying, I want 718 SCU of whatever, you actually choose the box size, choose the amount of units of that box size you want, and then get that delivered to your storage, into your hangar, right? And then you can grab that out on your freight elevator, chuck it into your ship. The biggest thing here, though, because that is a good touch. I like that a lot because then you sort of get to mix and match with your cargo. Auto loading, which was a thing that I know a lot of people were sort of concerned about, or they didn't know how it was going to work because they don't want to become warehouse workers in Star Citizen, essentially. At the moment, you don't pay any extra money, although that's possible. That could change once again. Evocati, patch 1. But there is a sort of time to it. So if you want to deliver it straight to your Hercules, every SCU will cost 30 seconds. Every single SCU will cost 30 seconds, it seems. And so rather than it being box based, which is what I was kind of hoping it would be, it is individual SCU based. Like the amount of time to load a 32 SCU crate appears to be the same amount of time it requires to load 32 one SCU crates. That I feel like is a bit of a problem. I think there should be an incentive for the auto loader to make it that, like, you know, the larger the box, like one SCU being 30 seconds, 2 SCU should be like 50 seconds. You know what I mean? Or something like that, because it's the same amount of boxes. It's just one's a little bit larger. I think would be a really interesting way and dynamic to, you know, sort of incentivize people to purchase larger boxes of things sometimes. But I don't know. We'll sort of see what happens there. But interesting to note. Another thing with the cargo, when you're buying and selling actually has like a different title now. It's called now local market value, which I just think is interesting. They're probably getting themselves ready for messing around with some more of the economy, but cool nonetheless. When you are leaving your hangar, and this is really important because these are instanced hangars, the process of moving from your hangar in the instance into the physical location where you can then, you know, leave the city was immediate. Now, keep in mind, Evo, sometimes things in Evo perform way better, sometimes they perform way worse, but the important thing to me was just that I expected this to be way buggier. This was the part of the entire patch that I thought was going to be super scuffed, and it just wasn't. It just worked. It just worked. It immediately put you in that location so that you can leave. It also, there was a different word notification that came up on top. I don't remember what it was, and I haven't written it down. But it was like gateway accepted, I think is what it was called. Yeah, an interesting sort of thing there. I'm really curious to see what would happen if you had like 30 people trying to leave the one spaceport at the same time, but didn't get to see that happen in the playtest. Cargo missions were not in the patch. They did not exist as far as I can tell. I haven't heard of anyone being able to get a cargo mission. So if they are in there at all, the biggest thing though is that they do appear to be in the game files from right here. So it shouldn't be too long before we get them. I mean, they weren't in the testing focus in the patch notes, so that part's not particularly surprising. That's pretty much everything I did. I went to a couple of different locations, a couple of different spawn locations to test out all these things. Some things that I wasn't able to test, but I was hearing a lot of stuff in global chat about is furniture being purchasable from a couple of different locations within the verse, including like different varieties of furniture, like different types of chairs and whatnot that you can set up around your hab, but also like inside your ships. So theoretically, you could just chuck them all in a C2 and have your own little party room in there. The trolley, the big yellow trolley that they've shown a couple of times, they show in. You can kind of see them at the distribution centers. I think they're just like stationary. They are there and you can buy them. I was able to buy them from the orbital stations in the cargo centers. However, when I spawned them, they would spawn reversed and I wouldn't be able to get to the panel that lets you operate it because it was sort of right up against a wall. So I wasn't able to use those, but they do appear to be there. I also couldn't be like tractor beam them or anything. Not sure if that was a bug or intentional. And that's most of everything. So my big concern, the patch is cool. The patch is super, super cool. The cinematics of your ship coming up from the ground is awesome. Freight elevators are relatively easy to use, just needs like some better filtering options and stuff. Or like, let me change the item sizes. My only issue really is the amount of time it's gonna add to a lot of people's days. It's a lot. The cargo, like the personal cargo, your armor and weapons and meds and whatnot take a little longer. Your ship management takes a little longer. And when you add those up in the grand scheme of things, it's going to take up a larger portion of your playtime. So if you can spawn them from the regular terminals immediately, great. If there's a way to make it so that cargo can be a little bit faster, good. And like there's already ideas, for example, people talking about you just chuck all of your like personal armor and weapons into a box that you then bring up from your freight elevator. Right, that'd be pretty easy. The other thing I will just mention quickly is it was very hard to test if the hangars were actually persistent, as it was Evo build. It was far too buggy to really tell, so that's something we're gonna have to test over the next couple of patches. But that's gonna be it for me. That's everything that I sort of got to experience during the Evocati test today of the cargo patch. It's really cool, and there's a lot of promise and potential, I guess, in there for how this can affect the gameplay in positive ways. It's just, yeah, I'm a little concerned about the time. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to see more Star Citizen content. I know this has been my first video in a hot second, but I've been particularly busy over the last couple of months. So we're back into it. 324. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.